Welcome back to Tech Stack for all you tech enthusiasts. In this video, we will perform update and delete operations using put and delete APIs on the same employee data. Let's first discuss the put and delete APIs. Put API, used to update an existing record with new data. Delete API, used to remove a record from the system permanently. On page load, data is not showing in the table because EMP_list is a normal variable. Our application is running in zoneless mode. To fix this, instead of using a normal variable, we will use a signal to store the employee list. To update a signal variable, use the set method. From Angular 21 onward, make sure to use signals for state variables. Since the app is zoneless, traditional change detection will not work automatically. Now, in the HTML, access the signal variable as a method. As you can see, the table is now displaying correctly. Now, let's implement the put API. In the table, we have an edit button. When clicked, the corresponding record should appear in the form for updating. We will create a function to handle the edit button click. This function will load the selected employee's data into the form for editing. Create a function named onEditEmployee to handle editing an employee record. Now, bind the onEditEmployee function to the edit button's click event in the table. Pass the complete employee object item to the onEditEmployee function when the edit button is clicked. Also, declare a variable obj of type employee in the component to hold the selected employee's data for editing. Now, store the selected employee object in EMP object. This works because EMP object is already bound to the form, so the data will appear automatically. Now, let's test the edit functionality to see if the selected employee data appears in the form. As you can see, when we click Edit, the selected employee's data is populated in the form. We are currently showing the employee ID in the form, but it's auto-increment. Let's remove it from the form because in real projects, auto-increment IDs cannot be updated or inserted manually. As you can see, the employee ID has been removed from the form. Before moving ahead, as you know, Angular recently released Angular 21. We are covering Angular 21 from scratch, so if you're a beginner or intermediate, this series will be highly recommended for you. We have also provided the Angular 21 playlist in the description for easy access. Now, let's modify the data in the form. When we change the data in the form, it's also updating in the table. This happens because both the form and table are referencing the same object. To fix this, we need to detach the reference, so changes in the form don't immediately affect the table. Now, create a variable to convert the employee object to a string. This helps in detaching the reference, so that changes in the form don't directly affect the table data. Next, parse the string back to an object to create a separate copy. This ensures the form works with a new object and doesn't directly modify the table's data. Assign the new object to EMP object, so the form is bound to this detached copy. This prevents changes in the form from immediately affecting the table. Now, let's test it to make sure changes in the form don't automatically update the table. As you can see, modifying the form no longer affects the table data, which means we have successfully detached the reference. Now, we will implement the put API to update the employee record. We will create a copy of the onSaveEmployee function and rename it to onUpdateEmployee for handling updates. Change the HTTP method from post to put. Add a slash followed by empObject.id to the API URL so the put request targets the specific employee record. Remove the debugger statements, and after the update, call getAllEmployees to refresh the table and display the updated data. Add a new button with text update in the form that will appear when a user clicks the edit button. Bind the onUpdateEmployee function to the update button's click event so it runs when a user submits the updated data. Now, apply an if block control flow in the form to conditionally show the save button only when employee ID is 0. Now, add an else block to show the update button when employee ID is greater than 0, when a user is editing an existing record. This way, the save button appears for new records and the update button appears when editing. Now, let's test the form to make sure the save and update buttons appear correctly and the update functionality works. As you can see, on page load, the Save button is displayed. Now, let's click the Edit button. As you can see, the Update button is now displayed. Now, modify the data in the form and click the Update button. As you can see, the data in the table has been updated successfully. That's all for updating records using the Put API. Now, we will implement the Delete API to remove employee records. Create a copy of the onUpdateEmployee function, which we will use for the Delete API. Rename the copied function to onDeleteEmployee to handle record deletion. Change the HTTP method to delete. Remove the request body from the delete call since it is not needed. Define the ID parameter in the function signature. This allows us to specify which employee record to delete. Add the ID to the API URL so the delete request targets the specific record. Now, bind the onDeleteEmployee function to the delete button's click event in the table. Pass item.id to the onDeleteEmployee. Now, let's test the delete functionality to make sure the employee record is removed from the table. As you can see, when we click the delete button, the record is removed from the table successfully. In most applications, it's important to ask the user for confirmation before deleting a record. Now, let's add a user confirmation before deleting a record. Create a constant confirm and use the confirm function to ask the user for deletion confirmation. This will return true if the user confirms or false if they cancel. Now, wrap the delete request inside an if condition to run it only if the user confirms. This ensures the record is deleted only when the user agrees. Now, let's test the delete functionality with the user confirmation. When we click delete, the confirmation alert is displayed. When we click cancel, the record is not deleted. Now, when we click OK on the confirmation alert, the record is successfully deleted. So, we have completed the Put and Delete API implementation, which means the Employee CRUD is now fully functional. First, we inserted data using the Post API, then displayed it with Get, updated it with Put, and deleted records using Delete. We use the same API URL for all operations. You can find the videos for GET and POST API integration in the description. If you're passionate about learning new technologies, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Tech Stack, and keep learning new skills. Thank you. And remember, consistency is the key to success.